Hey, I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of the AWM NFL podcast. My name is Riccardo Stewart. I'm your host, and I'm joined with my friends and coworkers. We got Jeff Locke, Zach Miller, and Sam Acho. I got a combined 20 plus years here of NFL playing experience plus financial expertise. Listen, we've been talking about, or we begin the conversation of the athlete CEO and really looking last episode at how do athletes view themselves as a business? And then how does that business begin to merge into the business of the NFL? And so one was creating value. Like, what does it look like to create value? And today I want to talk, guys, about, okay, once you've created that value and you've been able to enhance that intellectual, social, and physical capital, that now you have teams, companies, brands being to compensate you for that value. Like, what does that actually look like? And the athlete we looked at, because it was pertinent and relevant now, is Brock Purdy. And I want to look in today of like, how do you realize that? And so some language I've heard before is, how do you make the invisible visible? And oftentimes that's religious language, but I don't think it's just relegated to the religious. I think it's to anybody who's a believer. And the thing about being an NFL athlete is you are a believer. You are a believer first and foremost in yourself and your ability. And then when you begin to get others to see and believe in that ability, there's some things that can happen. And so, Jeff, I'm going to start with you, the professor. We've talked about the business of the NFL, athlete merging with the business of the NFL. Walk us through that and particularly NFL contracts and how many NFL players have made over 100 million? What does those contracts, how does that compare with our other major sports counterparts in terms of MLB and NBA and so forth?
Yeah, it makes me a little mad, Rick. I don't really love sharing these stats, but like, to truly understand what you can capture after you create value, you got to know how NFL contracts work, plain and simple, right? So active players with contracts over 100 mil in the NFL, 43 guys, right? Contracts over 100 mil, active players. But the catch, only 20 of those 43 have actual guaranteed money over 100 mil, right? Contracts look big, but it's all about the guarantees. MLB, right? Very different. 68 active players with contracts over 100 mil, all fully guaranteed contracts, right? No non-guaranteed money there. NBA is even better. 82 active guys with 100 mil or more contracts, all fully guaranteed. So 20 guys in the NFL with 100 mil more guarantees versus 68 versus 82 MLB and NBA.
Well, my grandfather said, that's some bull junk. That's some bull junk. You said, Jeff, in order for you to be this athlete CEO, you really do need to understand when it comes to capturing the value that you've created, you have to understand contracts. And so I appreciate you sharing all the different, stats of how many people made over 100 million. Zach, you're probably one of the best guys I know in breaking down and understanding contracts. And so let's pull the name used from last episode, Brock Purdy, into this. And if you can take what we know and we can see about his particular contract without being his agent and so forth, just begin to break down that contract in a way that helps us.
It's cool to see these contracts because they are so complicated when you get to these dollar amounts. So 5-year extension for Brock Purdy, $265 million. I mean, massive amount of money, but cool to see. What everyone always wants to know is like, oh, how much, what's the signing bonus? What are the guarantees? And so $40 million paid as a signing bonus. That truly is fully guaranteed money, assuming you show up, complete the contract, you're getting that money. And then that, a lot of it was written in the news. It was like 100 million kind of guaranteed at signing, or fully guaranteed. And then there was another 180 plus million out there. There's two differences between the guarantees. There's fully guaranteed, which means fully guaranteed for skill, cap, and injury, meaning if you just don't play well, if they're over the salary cap and they need to cut you, that money's fully guaranteed, meaning you're getting that money. And so for Brock Purdy, that number is 100 million. And then guaranteed for injury is sometimes also called guaranteed money because the assumption is that you're going to continue to play at a high level. The only reason you wouldn't get that is if you got hurt. And so that's kind of the difference between fully guaranteed and guaranteed money. So that's a big difference between those two numbers, 100 million versus 180 million for Brock Purdy. And then you have other things like the average value of the contract. That's going to be like really what players compare themselves to other players. I know when I signed my deal, I want to be, the highest paid tight end in the league. Brock Purdy wants to be one of the top paid quarterbacks in the league. So he got that kind of top 10 quarterback money when it comes to the annual money per year. And that you think about that, that's like what Dak Prescott got, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Mahomes. He's in that league when it comes to compensation. And it's not without negotiation. The 49ers, they know that they want to protect themselves. So what do they do on the back end? They gave themselves an out of the contract. After 3 years, they can get out of the contract, still paying a significant amount of money, but they have, the last 3 years are about 50 million each that they can get out of that within the next 2 years. So give and take in a negotiation of this magnitude, GMs or general managers, they are fighting for the long-term health of the team, fighting against the players. Players have to use every ounce of leverage they can get so that they can kind of hit that most amount of money and get as much as you can early. For any NFL player, as much money as you can get front-loaded in the front of that contract, because the last few years of an NFL contract are not worth the paper they're written on. Team can rip that up and not pay you out those last years. So get as much as you can in those early years, as much as you can get fully guaranteed.
I love it. When I was a kid, I'm old, and I'd stay home from school and you would watch like The Price is Right or some sort of game shows, and I absolutely loved it. And there was always be like, you would win the prize and the person would get all excited, and then the host would go, "But there's more," right? Okay, Brock Purdy didn't win a prize. We clearly said he earned it. NFL athletes, they earn it. But that's what they earn on the field. There's still more to capture in terms of the value that you created. Sam, the same way I said Zach was good with contract, in terms of people on this screen, you know what I mean, and you know where I'm going is, how does that work in capturing your value that you've created off the field?
Well, that's so good. Such a good question. I love the example, but wait, there's more. So Zach makes a great point. Oftentimes when I look at contracts, I look at what's guaranteed. That's what I look at. But okay, even if you look at what's guaranteed or the average annual value, there's more that can be had off of the field as well, specifically when it comes to whatever market that you're in. As an active player, one of the biggest ways to capture value is to endear yourself to the community in which you play. And so whether that's with some of the media relations team, whether that's with some of the people who are doing community service, as you get yourself more known in your community, all of a sudden there's going to be local brand sponsors, local partners that want to partner with you. And then obviously we're talking about Brock Purdy in this scenario. There are national partners that are not necessarily worried about Brock Purdy's contract on the field, but they're looking at his play. They're saying, okay, this guy's a quarterback playing at a high level, going to championship games, going to Super Bowls, right? Recognizable face. Boom, Toyota national commercial, right? That's off the field income. All right, boom, you're looking at the Arby's national commercial. That's off the field income. And so you don't have to be the star quarterback. You don't have to even be the star, with a receiver. Oftentimes there are these positions that people get a lot more attention. But even if you're at a local community, right, you can turn your brand into a business by playing great on the field, but not being afraid to build relationships off of it as well. And that's what we're seeing Brock Purdy do, right? He's keeping his play consistent with his character off of the field as well. So when people meet him, when brand sponsors meet him, they don't know football jargon. They don't care about it. They meet him, they're like, okay, man, this is a guy I want to do business with. And so those are a few of the ways you can capture that value, not just on the field, but also off the field as well.
I love it. Athlete
Rick,
CEO.
Rick, I got one question for Zach and Sam real quick.
Let's get it.
So Zach and Sam, I know both of you well. Like, you guys were on the NFLPA committee when you guys were players, right? You were helping out players. You were both involved or around the last CBA negotiations. So like, I talked about the guarantee money and how it pisses me off. Like, all these other leagues get the guarantees. Like, why is the NFL that way where it's not like the NBA or the MLB?
I'll go first on this one. I'll answer this one. So I was a part of the last CBA negotiations. Back in 2018, I got voted by the players as not just a member of the Chicago Bears player representative, but I was on the executive committee, vice president of the NFLPA. Me and about 9 other players were in the negotiations with the owners. That's Jerry Jones. That's Roger Goodell. He was helping lead the charge for the ownership as well. Clark Hunt, et cetera, negotiating the CBA. And it's interesting, as a player, you think, okay, I got a contract. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm getting paid. But when ownership looks at you and your contract, they view it as what they call a player cost. It's not like, hey, we're getting this guy. It's like, no, this is how much it's going to cost us in order to have our teams, not just one team, but our teams and this league run properly. And so when ownership's looking at guaranteed money, that's one of the things that we talked about. Aaron Rodgers was in those conversations as well about how do we get fully guaranteed contracts? The ownership was not about having players get fully guaranteed contracts because they were thinking, man, if we do this, the player costs are going to rise to a level they wouldn't be able to maintain. And so that's one area to remember as a player. Owners aren't trying to give you the money. They're thinking, hey, how do we keep the player cost down?
And I'll say, I heard one story from Jeff Saturday, who was part of those negotiations in 2011. He said Jerry Jones basically called the players cattle, just a cost for the NFL to run its business, and that they didn't believe that NFL players, if they had guaranteed contracts, would go out there and lay it on the line. And I mean, that's how the view has been from ownership for the longest time, and it'll continue to stay that way. That's why the NFLPA exists.
And I'm not at liberty to go into depth of what was said in the meetings that I was in, but I will say this, Zach Miller, is you're not too far off from what we heard in those meetings from individuals like Jerry Jones. So just know that as much like certain people, I get it. Yeah, the owners and the GM, like, they're your friends as long as you're producing, right? But we talked about the back half of Brock Purdy's contract. After that $100 million is spent, a year in, 2 years in, or 3 years in, and if Brock Purdy isn't producing, I don't care if you're a friend or not. They're running it as a business, and they're going to move on from that player cost unless you continue to perform. And so we always talk about betting on yourself. That's what Brock Purdy's doing. He's betting on himself.
I love that. Jeff, first of all, that was a phenomenal question and a great way for us to be able to land the plane, because it's the business of you. And what does it look like when it merges to the business of the NFL? Zach, Sam, that was incredible insight. And you got to understand, like a business owner, you got to be savvy and know what it is, what rooms, what buildings are you walking into when it comes to you bringing yourself. And that is important. We've talked about how to create this value. And now it's captured. Think about it in a business, capturing it and the contracts, that's like the revenue of a business. What we want to talk about next is what's the profit? Like after-tax dollars in my pocket. And how do those particular dollars begin to fuel this life that I have envisioned for myself and my future family? And so any questions you guys have about what you heard in this episode, any thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. You can shoot us a text. Our number is 602-989-5022.
This has been a production of AWM Capital, the Athlete Family Office. Reach out to the team at athletefamilyoffice.com or by calling or texting 602-989-5022. All opinions expressed by the hosts are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of AWM Capital. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon in any manner as professional advice or an endorsement of any practices, products, or services. There can be no guarantees or assurances that the views expressed here will be applicable to any particular facts or circumstances and should not be relied upon in any manner. You should consult your own advisors as to legal, business, tax, and other related matters concerning any investment. Clients and employees of AWM Capital may maintain positions in the securities or companies discussed in this podcast.